Hello and welcome back. On the last episode we met our tiny little friend Wanshi and lied to them until we saved them from a rampage at basically a con. I don't know if it's Comic Con equivalent on Alternia, but either way, we had fun. Yeah, we didn't really learn much except about a series of called Soldier Per Beast. So Soldier Cats, hooray! But with that, we completed Volume 15, and we are now on to Volume 16. So, who next to meet? Volume 16 of Cult and Captivision. You crash-landed on Alternia 16 long episodes ago, and sometimes you feel like you've been here forever. You've had many adventures and met many Alternians, none of whom have become your friends. But now, for some reason, you have a hunch that you're near to the end of your Alternian travels. For one thing, you seem to be coming to the edge of the populated region you've been walking through all the time you've been here. For another, the intense craving that aimed you throughout your journey feels like it might be waning. It's not quite gone, but like a diner who's stuffed himself to bursting, but is still seeking for the last sweet morsel that will make his meal complete. You still are on the prowl for the very sweetest morsel of friendship. Fozzer Velyes. The night has turned foggy, and you can't see it far in any direction, but you seem to be surrounded on every side by bare ground, hammocked and pitted, almost like the weird abstract sculptures, and covered by greenish moss. Based on your experience you've had with Alternian flora, you can imagine the moss is probably poisonous, acidic, explosive, or something of that nature. Suddenly, a shadow looms out of the darkness, making you jump, but it's only a leaning signpost. As you move closer, you can see that the sign says, "Welcome to the Happy Absence Pit Park." Before you can figure out what that might be, you hear a voice muttering to itself in the fog, and a sound like dirt being shoveled. Shovel, shovel, toil and trouble, lubbards of the world, unite. You move cautiously towards the voice until the figure of the troll emerges from the fog. He seems to be digging in the hard, bare ground. There is a tide in the affairs of trolls, which, taken at the flood, leads onto the workers' paradise. You clear your throat, and the troll turns swiftly. "Who's there? Who's there, I say?" You announce soothingly that you're just a poor wayfaring stranger. Not a ghost, nor any nonsense like that. You confirm that you are not. Good, because I don't believe in them. I'm dialectical materialist. If you're not a ghost, who are you? You explain that you're a humble alien who recently, well, not so recently, crashed on Alternia, but who's been looking ever since for. Here you'll blushingly trail off into a mumble. The troll snorts and comes close to you to study you. His breath is not the freshest. An alien. Well, you are the color of cheese, but it could be makeup. You could be a high-blood in disguise, come to watch poor little Fozzer Velyes pursuing his humble profession of pit perturber for some unknown reason of your own. Fozzer rubs his exposed skin on your arm to see if the makeup will come off. It doesn't, but he's still suspicious. A real alien would know what outer space is like. Describe outer space to me. You describe attack ships on fire, off the shoulder of Orion, and watching sea-beams glitter into the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. You express the belief that all those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the rain. These authentic descriptions seem to satisfy Fozzer. He nods his head and seems to think. He doesn't appear to be a fast thinker. Finally, he seems to have an idea. Do the cheese entities where you come from have a strong consciousness of class struggle? You have no idea what he's talking about, but you are always good at guessing the right answer on multiple choice tests. You assure him that the people where you come from have such a strong consciousness of class struggle that they use it to jack up their cars with when they get flat tires. A big smile overspread Fozzer's face, and he pumps his fist into the air. Pleased to meet you, comrade and alien. All power to the workers. I imagine that finding me performing the hardest labor of working class makes you feel right at home. You assure him that it does. I suppose that you wish you could share in the simple proletarian joys and sorrows of the Alternian oppressed classes. You're not sure what proletarian means, but sharing joys and sorrows sounds like a hopeful prelude to friendship. So you say you were thinking that you would just like to share the kind of joys and sorrows? Easily done, comrade. Here, take this soil protrusion, Lance. You can enter into solidarity with the Alternian working class right now. No, don't thank me. Freedom, brotherhood, and equality is my motto. Conduct your protrusions right here, if you please. He points to where he was shoveling, and you begin to shovel there too. The moss covers the ground is tough as leather, and the Alternian soil is rocky, hard and unforgiving. No surprise there. And before long, you're sweating profusely, and no excursion is too great for the pursuit of friendship. Fozzer watches you labour with brotherly satisfaction. Class solidarity is a wonderful thing, isn't it? From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. You look like a walking cheese, but your muscular development is impressive. So, just to pass the time while you labour in solidarity, what do you think of our planet? What has been your impression of it on your visit from outer space? Oh, okay. No more saving issues. There's always a saving issue. You suppose it's no worse than than a lot of places with some good points, bad points. It's by far the worst place you've ever heard of. He wants us to say it's good, right? As a guest, it's only polite to say nice things about the host planet. Besides, meeting Fozzer has stoked your desire for a sweet friendship morsel, and a little praise and flattery often gets a long way to make people like you. So, with the little breath you have to spare from digging, you tell Fozzer that you found Alternia the most interesting. The fierce rush of life here induces you with a sultry wakefulness and boredom from virtually unknown. Also, the social structure arising from the human spectrum and multi-dimensional relationship matrix is very unusual, producing a fascinating array of possible interactions among people. You look forward to the day when you can tell your grandchildren about it, but Fozzer doesn't look as pleased as you'd hope. So you find Alternia agrees with you. Oh yes, very much, you pant. You find it interesting and fascinating. Definitely. To you, the spectacle of those who happen to have been born with certain blood clots exploiting the oppressing those who have not is just a picturesque detail. Well, you wouldn't go as far to say, you find nothing objectionable in the society where the strong kill the weak at all, based on nothing more than the colour of a bodily fluid, where the upper classes see the lower classes as little more than inanimate objects, whose only purpose is to serve them, where the whole corrupt society is structured solely to breed cannon fodder for a psychotonic, impressed, mad plan to conquer the entire galaxy, more peoples to impress. That certainly wasn't what you... While the streets run rust, orange, and gold blood, you stand unconcernedly and remark how interesting and fascinating Alternia is. While the fish people and their bluish lackeys strike the pap from the mouth of the low-blood wrigglers, you smile pleasantly and remark how unusual Alternia is. Certainly not, but one can't judge other cultures by one's own. Oh, you can't dodge your class responsibilities that way, you cur. You so-called intellectuals try to hide your fawns' civility to the bosses and by pretending to view society objectively, without moral judgments. When all the time you're simply crypto-imperialist lapdogs. I have no idea what he's going on about, but... And you come to the happy absence pit park, pretending solidarity and with the oppressed Pushar. I see how, now that you're nothing more than a cat paw of the oppressor class. Nothing but a cheese-colored Judas Iskarot, sent as a spy, traitor, bootlegger, a sycophant, murderer, monopolist, profiteer, slave trader, cannibal, parasite, technocrat, gangster, ectoplasm. No. You try to object, but Fozzer seizes the shovel from you and turns away. Turncoat, narc, double-crosser, weasel, hijacker, vulture, Visigoth, breathalyzer. You watch as he backs recede. You watch his back recede into the fog. Your heart sinking into the wreck of your hopes and dreams for friendship. Okay, that was confusing. I'm concerned. It's the worst. The feelings come over you suddenly that nothing could be more important than the truth. The truth is at the foundation of all real friendship. Truth sets you free, honestly. Honesty is the best policy. You take a deep breath and say that you hope you won't give offense, but that, in your opinion, Alternia is the nastiest, ugliest, cruelest, most inhospitable, and most unfair place you've ever seen or heard of in a long time in your long life of travel and study. Even the plants are bloodthirsty. Even the soil hard and mean. You've made no friends here. But you've heard it's also possible to make friends with lions, bears, killer whales, and other animals and dangerous creatures. In fact, often here in Alternia you've felt that you've been locked in a cage with a bunch of such wild and dangerous creatures. As you've talked, you've been watching Fozzer anxiously for signs of anger. You're surprised to see that, instead, he seems to be loving it. And what about our political system? You've already put your foot in it, so you go ahead and put the other one in too. You express your opinion that a violent, rigidly stratified, insectile social structure created solely to generate soldiers for mad project to conquer the entire galaxy might raise eyebrows in some quarters. You admire natural selection and survival of the fittest as much as the next person, but this is overkill on the Titanic scale. As you've been speaking, Fozzer's smiles has grown wider and wider, and he's shown other signs of approval, such as jumping up and down and whirling around, pumping his fists up in the air. Forward to perfect socialism. It's good to talk to someone who hasn't been hypnotized from Wrigglerhood to counter-revolutionary pap. Okay, cool. Counter-revolutionary. Okay. Yeah. Counter-revolutionary pap. Someone who sees conditions in Alternia for what they really are, who sees the evil of the Highbloods. Someone who will march in the vanguard of the workers' revolution to face unflinching the onslaught of the aristocracy, perhaps, nay, probably, to die in the hail of bullets, but never turn their backs on the people. Oh, let me embrace you, comrade alien. He does so. He's oily and smells like mossy soil and poor ooze. But this does not dampen your spirits. What's a better preamble from making a suggestion of friendship? Agreeing with people about politics never fails to bring friendship closer. But before you can bring it up, Fozzer, having first kissed you on both cheeks, continues. But we mustn't allow our celebration of the people's revolution to interfere with the honest labour that ennobles us. I'm holding you back from your ticket to the workers' paradise. Please proceed with your soul perturbation. All power to the people, death to the arbitrary hemospectral discrimination. Forward, comrade. He waves his hand with a flourish, and you start singing again. You wonder if it would be just as revolutionary if you traded places with so Fozzer could do the digging and you could just do the speechifying, but you don't wish to disturb the perfect harmony now existing between you two. Instead, you use the little available breath to inquire what all this soul perturbation is in the aid of. Why, a coal pit, of course. Didn't you see the sign? This is a happy absent pit park, Fozzer Velyes proprietor. Alternia's reactionary tradition is that to put a dig coal pit anywhere without a second thought, but our revolutionary future demands that we have more respect for the dead. So I've created this wonderful innovation, the pit park. There's a clown concert being held not too far from here, so I anticipate a brisk demand shortly. Best to be ready for these things. So he's making a cemetery. Cool, got it. That's the one thing I understand about anything he's ever said. Having a lot of dead clowns lying around rotting on the property is unpleasant, not to mention unsanitary. Get them underground pronto is our motto here at the Happy Absence Pit Park. You're wondering privately whether a little class solidarity couldn't be extended to Purple Bloods, remembering that your dear friend Carico when Fozzer seems to give a jump. No, that's not a ghost. Grateful for an excuse to stop digging, you turn to look in the direction Fozzer is staring. Leaning on the soil perturbation lands, you don't see anything but fog. You ask what is not ghosts. Nothing is. I'm a delectable materialist, and if any ghosts come around the Happy Pit Absence Park, they should be aware that I won't believe in them, so they might as well go somewhere else. You confess that you don't see anything but foggy darkness and humped and pitted ground. Were you now to guess the piles of cold Alternians' exoskeletons are buried in the coal pits? You don't see any ghosts because there are no such thing, but the past few nights I thought I saw beams of light shining up from out of the ground. Almost as if, metaphorically of course, some of the exoskeletons in the coal pit had gotten a hold of some flashlights and were shining them up through the chinks in the soil, looking... look, there it goes again. Ooh, something's flashing from the ground. This time you see it, a column of light that flashes up through the fog and is gone, seeming to come from the crack in the ground, which is briefly illuminated by in blinding white. Fascinated, you move towards the cracks, which is now dark and invisible again. What are you doing? You look at Fozzer with surprise. He seems terrified. You ask tactfully whether he doesn't think you ought to see what it is. For example, it could be some infrastructure malfunction that could blow the Happy Absence Pit Park and all of its inhabitants, living and dead, sky high. You're not even sure that they have infrastructures on Alternia, but one can't be too careful. Well, maybe you're right. We are fearless revolutionary cadres, after all. You can hear his teeth chattering. You move towards what you think is the flashlight came from. Fozzer, close behind you, is peering over your shoulder. You can't help but wonder where he'll be when the vanguard of the revolution is braving the hail of bullets. You very much hope that his revolution, if it ever comes, won't happen while you're around. Just when the whole series of flash silently from the ground, making a column through the fog, Fozzer jumps and howls behind you. Non-existent. You tell him that there's undoubtedly a logical explanation, though you have to admit that you had a weird feeling just now when the lights appeared, like a momentary dizziness or feeling of discontinuity. Or discontinuity, did you say? Anyway. But you're more curious than ever now, murmuring comforting things to Fozzer. You start digging around where the lights you just saw came from. Then it's weird because you break through some of the kind of thin crust, as if the soil in that particular place is just a few inches thick, over a brittle surface that your shovel goes right through to, like an old pottery. You wonder if whether you've inadvertently dug into an old coal pit, but what would bright light be doing in such an old coal pit? Oops. And in some weird way, it doesn't seem like it doesn't feel like an old coal pit. It feels something like metaphysical, like reality itself is particularly thin right in this spot, and you've broken through the very fabric of it that your soil protuberant lands. You dig around the edges of the hole, enlarging it until it is about a foot wide. The darkness within makes the darkness of the Alternia night as bright as by comparison. It's so dark that the soil falling into it and the part of the soil protuberant lands poking into it seems to vanish completely. As if on the other side of that hole, reality itself gives out. You and Fozzer stare curiously down into the hole. Suddenly, a blinding but strangely blank light bursts out into the hole, into your face, and at the same time, there's a deafening sound which seems to vibrate every framework of reality, like a gigantic needle scratching on a gigantic record. Gerlich. You're standing in the foggy night, holding a soil protuberant lance that had been handed to you by Fozzer Velyes. He points to where you had just been digging, and you begin digging in the same place. The moss is covered in the ground is tough and like leather, and the Alternian soil is rocky hard and unforgiving. No surprise there. And before long, you're sweating profusely. But you feel strange, like you were just standing somewhere else, doing something else, seeing something else. So, we're back in time? Huh. Okay then. The afterimage of a blinding light and a deafening sound seem to linger in your eyes and ears. But around you is nothing but a dark fog and bare ground humped and pitted. You must have had a dizzy spell. You shake it off and begin perturbing the soil. No exertion is too great for the pursuit of friendship, after all. Fozzer watches you with satisfaction. Honest work is wonderful. Is a wonderful thing. All hail to the old regime, eh? Old regime? You look like you're a walking cheese, but your muscular development is impressive. What do you think of our planet? Has been your impression of our visit? Cool. So we did go back in time. Well, then what's the second option then? It's the worst place we've ever seen. The feeling comes across that there's nothing more important than telling the truth. obviously it's the best policy. Yeah. Yeah, we've had this before. In fact, you felt that... yep. No doubt you could have anticipated the blunt honesty it would have given offence, but indeed it seemed to have done so. As you finish your remarks, Fozzer is frowning darkly. Excuse me? I thought you wanted this. So you've come to Alternia as an uninvited guest only to criticize and judge our civilization, eh? No. What? You know enough about our society, our billions of years of evolution, and our painstaking rise from the mud-dwelling insectile ancestors, the political and sociological theories of our statesmen, philosophers, and scientists to make those judgments, do you? Well, no doubt you've done studies establishing what would happen if the hemospectrum groups were placed on different relations to one another. If, for example, Rust Bloods were the highest group and Fuchsia was the lowest. Well, Mr. Velyes, what? What? Well, no, but I suppose your planet is similar to Alternia, that you have a firm basis on what to apply your preconceptions to us. No, not at all, but... And surely you aliens are similar enough biologically and physiologically to trolls to know that how we feel about our own society. I thought not. I guessed from the very first that you were nothing but a dilatant fox scientist, socialist, pseudo-intellectual spouting your ivory tower theories without the least idea of what you're talking about. Well, smarty pants, alien, I suggest that you take your cheese-like person and take your theories home to your own planet. It won't be long before her most high imperial condescension conquers your arm of the galaxy, so that we Alternians can return to the favor by standing in judgment over your society and politics. In the meantime, I bid you a good Sidium. And with that, Fozzer seizes his saw protuberance and as well. What? Okay, at least in the other one he just walked off, but that's rude. So what? Are we supposed to? Now we're supposed to insult? Now we're supposed to say it's good? As a guess, it's only applied. Yeah, it's only. Virtually unknown. Cool. As you're speaking, a satisfied smile spreads over Fozzer's face. Why have you suddenly flipped? I'm glad you recognize the nobility of our ancient society, and its orderly hierarchy and naturally evolved degrees of privilege reflecting naturally evolved degrees of ability. You're pleased that your words have been met with approval, but you're still a little troubled. You ever had an odd deja vu sensation that this whole exchange could have gone quite differently? Yeah, maybe. It even did go quite differently sometime in the past, or in some parallel universe. Okay, so is this a time loop, or is this a parallel universe? And you inquire timidly whether the total domination of the lower bloods, or by the higher bloods on Alternia, doesn't feel like oppression. Never. I myself am only a rust blood, so I lack the privileges of the higher bloods. But the most important thing for a society is that everyone should be on their appointed place and do the things that they're suited for. If all the passengers in the rowboat keep their seats and row the same direction, the boat will quickly reach the destination. But if the passengers all jump and start running around and grabbing the others' oars, the boat will capsize and all will be lost. You remark diplomatically that Alternia isn't a rowboat rowing towards a destination. You're wrong. Our planet is very much like a rowboat advancing through the black water of space. And as for our destination, all of us on Alternia aim to be simple, but a simple goal every hour of every day to serve her most high empirical condescension, in conquering her glorious galaxy-wide empire. Long live the Empress. While you suppose the sense of being part of... you suppose the sense of being part of something larger than yourself makes up for a lot. It does. And naturally evolved systems are almost always more robust than artificially designed ones. They are. And it's true that Alternian's social structure does bring some semblance of order to a collection of 12 desperate subtypes. It is. Fozzer beams at you fondly. There's nothing that warms your heart like someone who thinks you're right about everything. It's so wonderful to find someone, even someone who looks like a piece of cheese, who is so intellectual and understands society and politics so perfectly. Finally, a true friend. Pardon for a moment. That's confusing. Okay. I can't say I enjoyed this one because this one confused me a lot, but hopefully you had fun, and hopefully I can see you on the next one, because that seems like a lot shorter than the others. Anyway, with that, goodbye.